Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to I Will Restore radio broadcast. The purpose of this program is to empower you to break out of your limiting principles, values, and beliefs to bring you into your desired divine destiny. I'm Minister Vicky, your co-host. Our desire is to help you fulfill your destiny and reach your goals by providing you with tools and techniques to facilitate your spiritual and emotional healing. Now let's join our host, the Restoration Doctor, Dr. D.L. Waters.
Welcome to I Will Restore Blog Talk Radio. We are so excited that you are here, that you are participating in this unfoldment that is truly taking place. We are considering for a period of time 5 lessons that really come from an individual, a 20th century mystic that lived, whose name was Neville Goddard. And Neville Goddard, Neville as he was affectionately called, produced and brought forth a number of items, number of sermonic presentations that had the intent of empowering an individual to make it possible for that individual to bring about the life that they dream, indeed what we call the 4D life. We call it the 4D life. The first D stands for a life that you desire. It has to be something that you indeed want. It's not the life that your mother wanted for you, your father wanted for you, the society wants for you, or anyone else wants for you, other than you yourself want that life for yourself. So it is a life that you desire. Next, it is a life that you define. It is a defined life, which means that it is clearly articulated. There's a verse of Scripture that says in the Holy Book, the Bible, it says, write the vision and make it plain. And so it is a defined vision that you have for your life. It is something that is definite, that is written down. It is defined. And we invite you to get a number of tools that we have just by emailing me at dennis.waters4@comcast.net. Email me and let me send to you what we call our strategic spiritual life planner. Spiritual strategic life planner, in which you write down your definite desires. Is one way of going about it. We also have a free resource that we've received from another individual that is called your Workbook for Success, as well as some other tools. And all of these are to help you to be very specific and very definite about what it is that you truly desire, what it is, because again, we're giving you tools via the sermonic presentations of Neville Goddard, giving you tools by which you bring it about, but you want to be very clear as to what it is that you definitely desire, And so you are invited to actually use these tools. There are other tools, of course. These are free. These are free to you. All you do is send us your email address and your name and tell us that you want this particular resource. And when we get it out to you, then you can begin to construct your dream, your 4D life as in its present state, which is a vision, a dream that you have. And then you bring that forth, and we give you the tools and techniques to use and show you how to use your consciousness, your imagination, whatever name you might give it, whatever process that you might go through. We want to encourage you to do this. We are just encouraging you and giving you the tools that we are familiar with. There are other tools, without fail, without doubt. There are other tools. So the first D is that it is desired. The second D is that it is defined. The third D is that it is divinely intended for you. It is divinely intended. We believe, of course, that there is spirit. There is ultimate reality. And so it is divinely intended for you. And that's the reason that you have emanated, incarnated on this earth. There's a reason that you are here. So it's divinely intended. And then the fourth D has to do with the aspect that it is your destiny, but we also add it is lived on the fourth dimension. And we say the fourth dimension as opposed to the 3D dimension or third dimension. And the fourth dimension, of course, is the element of time. And when you're in the realm of spirit, of course, there is really no time. There is past, present, and future, and it's all now in regard to your being in this realm. And so Neville comes forth and he talks about this in these sermonic presentations, and the one that we are using at this present time is the one that is called Consciousness is the Only Reality. We have made mention of the fact that consciousness is a name that Neville uses as he speaks of this ability, this dimension of living that we have, and he calls it the only reality. And when I looked at this initially, as I said before, it seemed strange, but then when I considered it again, when I looked in the realm of spirit and sat in the realm of spirit and did my prayers and went through my various practices of meditation, affirmative prayer, spiritual study, sacred service, all of these things as I looked through, I recognize, of course, that in order to bring anything in to make it useful to the individual, they absolutely must bring it into their mind, into their consciousness. That is the way, that is our door into the realm of spirit. And people have so many different names that they use, and consciousness is the name that is used for Neville Goddard, by Neville Goddard. And so I'm not offended by the name. Others have said various other names, whether you use the name Jesus the Christ or Krishna or Gandhi, or whether you use the name Buddha, or whether you use the name imagination. What we're talking about is to move into this realm, to actually move into this realm, not getting caught up in the cultural definition of what the realm is. Whatever you call it, move into the realm. Better yet, what we're talking about is actually bringing forth your 4D life. So we're not here just to go back and forth, what's the right name, whatever it may be. I mean, there are so many translations that are of any sacred text, and there are so many things that get lost in the translation. So we're not here to go through that. What we're inviting you is to do it, and this is just one tool, one technique, one process that you can use in order to bring yourself into this level of living, because that's our focus, to bring you into this level of living. And indeed, no matter what level you're living on now, no matter what life you're living on now, life can be better. Agree? Life can be better. Life can be different. You can move to the next level. You can be indeed a greater presence, a greater beneficial presence on this earth. And so this is what we are inviting you to do, is to be of greater use, greater benefit to the entire earth. And so this aspect of this particular presentation, consciousness is the only reality. We're looking at it. There are 4 other sermonic presentations that come and follow this. Again, we are willing and desirous of sending those to you. You can read them because we're just adding our footnotes to what Neville has already written, but you can read them. Send me the email at dennis.waters4@comcast.net, dennis.waters4@comcast.net. Hopefully you've been following either being present live in what we were doing, or as you listen to it via the website iwillrestore.org. You listen to the rebroadcast of this also at restorematrix.org. Listen to this broadcast of this particular item, Consciousness, the Only Reality. You've been following along. If you haven't done that, and this is your first time here, first of all, we want to welcome you. This is an amazing journey that we're taking, and I know it will be of great benefit to you. Individual emailed me a few days ago and said, I just love Neville Goddard, and they've been with us and following us here day after day, and we're just excited because we know that individuals' lives are being changed as they implement and use these tools. So we're talking about this item called Consciousness is the Only Reality. There were 3 stories that Neville brought forth, and we are now looking at the 4th story. We have already done part of that particular story, and we're going to continue with that particular story. So I want to begin at where he introduces the first story. It says, and this is reading from Neville here, it says, the 4th story for tonight is taken from the last of the books attributed to Moses. If you need proof that Moses did not write it, Read the story carefully. It is found in the 34th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. Ask any priest or rabbi who is the author of this book, and they will tell you that Moses wrote it. In the 34th chapter of Deuteronomy, you will read of a man writing his own obituary. That is, Moses wrote this chapter. A man may sit down and write what he would like to have placed upon his tombstone. But here's a man who writes his own obituary, and then he dies, and so completely rubs himself out that he defies posterity to find where he has buried himself. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth-peor, but no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. Deuteronomy chapter 34, verses 5, 6, and 7. And it's an amazing thing because there are so many things that have been written about how it is that this book, first of all, written by Moses, it is agreed, written by Moses, considered one of the first 5 books of Moses. And here it is that an individual named Moses is writing, and he says, so Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab. And so just looking at that particular item, there is this idea that an individual who is already dead, according to what is written here, if you process it in the natural way, then a person who's already dead is actually writing this 34th chapter. So already you've got to do something with your mind and say what's going on here, because the first thing that the mind will tell you is that it is impossible for that to take place. And so you've got to do something with your mind, or just rush over it and pretend it's not there and say you didn't see it, which is what many people do. They're actually in a certain kind of way asleep. They don't really want to process the information or understand because it doesn't make sense on this level that they're looking at. And so we want you to look at it and say, well, how did he do that? How did he do that? And just continue and follow what Neville was talking about. He says here, they continue with Neville, you must this night, not tomorrow, learn the technique of writing your own obituary and so completely die to what you are that no person in the world can tell you where you buried the old man or the old person. If you are now ill and you become well, if you are someone who is sick and you want to be and desire to be well, if you are now ill and you become well, and I know you by reason of the fact that you are ill, where can you point and tell me you buried the sick one? So if you are ill today and you show up tomorrow or even 5 days from now or 10 days from now, and there is no evidence that you were ever ill with whatever the illness may be, and so there's no evidence, where are you going to point out and say, well, I buried this sick person over here because you are now new? If you impoverish and borrow from every friend you have, and then suddenly you roll into wealth, where did you bury the poor person? You so completely rub out poverty in your mind's eye that there's nothing in this world you can point to and claim that is where I left it. He calls it a complete transformation of consciousness. A complete transformation of consciousness rubs out all evidence that anything other than this ever existed in the world. And so that's what really he is talking about. How do I completely transform consciousness, our individual consciousness, so that there's a complete different individual in every imaginable way. The two ways that he's talked about here. And, there are so many people that have the opportunity to use these particular tools and techniques. This is what we're talking about. Because you look around, you're visiting people in the hospital all the time. You're asking yourself, how can I help? You want to help. But then one day it may be that you show up in the hospital. And part of the reason that you may show up in the hospital is because of the aspect that you're watching only sickness and thinking that it's natural, that's what must happen. And so here's an individual and says that it is possible for you to do a complete transformation of consciousness. When you think about that, we were just having the discussion about transformation, and there was use of the butterfly as an emblem or symbol of transformation. And there's this aspect you have to wonder: when the butterfly shows up, does it ever remember crawling on the ground? When the butterfly shows up, does it ever remember crawling on the ground? And you change, and one of the reasons that people don't change is because this happens, that when you're a totally new person, people look at you and they look at you just like the man that was in the Bible where it talks about that he was healed. And he had been blind before, and when people saw him, they couldn't believe it. They'd only known him as somebody who was blind. And so there's this complete transformation that takes place. He says it. He sums it all up, says, I was blind, and now I see. I was blind, and now I see. And so now you're moving to the point where you're understanding that not only is that something that's spoken of in the Bible, but it is something that you can actually bring about in your own life. And here is a tool, a technique for you to use that. And by the fact that you are here, you are being introduced, you're being invited, really, into this area where you can transform. It is an invitation to transformation. But so many individuals, when they see the invitation, they want it, but they don't will it. And so they'd rather stay where they are. And I'm believing that's not you, because you are here now. You are here now. You're listening to this now. A complete transformation of consciousness. And so Neville says that there's a technique of writing your own obituary and so completely dying to what you are that no person in the world can tell you where you buried the old person. He says the beautiful technique, the most beautiful technique for the realizing of a person's objective is given in the first verse of the 34th chapter of Deuteronomy. So he's going to give you now the technique. How do you do it? How do you do it? And he says, and Moses went up from the plain of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead and Dan. Do you remember that we were talking about the aspect that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used this particular verse, the first verse of the 34th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, the last night that he was here in this dimension on this plane, and he said, I have been to the mountaintop. Neville says you read that verse and say, so what? But then he says, go further, go deeper. Take a concordance and look at the words. The first word, Moses, means to draw out, to rescue, to lift out, to fetch. So you are invited, first of all, to consider the word Moses. And he says, look that word up in a concordance. Look up the words, Moses. It means to draw out, to rescue, to lift out, to fetch. What do you want to draw out? What do you want to rescue? What do you want to lift out? What do you want to fetch? And so a person who is dealing with illness, if you know someone, have them actually listen to this broadcast. If you know someone, and wherever you are, if the person is dealing with poverty, not enoughness, when it comes to just in any part of the world, at any particular time, you're dealing with the aspect of not enoughness. Moses, in other words, Neville says Moses is a personification of the power in a human being that can draw out of a human being that which that human being seeks. For everything comes from within, not from without. Everything that your desires come from within, not from without. And that which fulfills the desire comes from within. You are the seed or the acorn that brings forth the oak. Everything comes from within, not from without. You draw from within yourself that which you now want to express, Neville says. You draw from within yourself that which you now want to express as something objective to yourself. He is saying basically, again, the acorn and the oak. If the oak wants a branch, it's not coming from another tree. It's coming from within itself that it's going to unfold the branch. And so you draw from within yourself that which you now want to express as something objective to yourself. You are Moses coming out of the plain of Moab. The word Moab is a contraction of two Hebraic words, Mem and Ab, M-E-M and A-B, meaning mother, father. Your consciousness is the mother, father. There's no other cause in the world. Your I amness, your awareness is this Moab. You're always drawing something out of it. You're always drawing something out of your own consciousness. You are who you are because you have informed yourself that you are who you are. You are who you are. You are Moses coming out of the plain of Moab. You are Moses coming out of the plain of Moab. If you're conscious of illness, then you're ill. If you're conscious of poverty, then you're poor. If you're conscious of limitations, then you're limited. And then he says the next word is Nebo. In your concordance, Nebo is defined as a prophecy, a prophetic word. There's so many people who go to other individuals and they want someone to actually pronounce a prophetic word over them or concerning them, and they have this, and all that is really taking place in regard to this is that you look at an individual, they are echoing, first of all, if they are moving in the realm that I'm talking about moving in, they seek to sense what is the prophetic word that is already inside of you. What is the prophetic word that is already inside of you, where you are at the level of spirit. And out of that, they then speak that prophetic word out loud. Because there are times that rather than listening to, and you have difficulty getting to the point where you can hear the prophetic word coming from within, you will hear it if it's spoken from someone else. And that's all right if that is the way that you choose to do that. Indeed, I do it all. I listen to those who repeat back to me, those who repeat back to me that which I've said to myself. And for me, I write it down. I write it down in a journal. I recommend that for any individual to journal. It is a prophecy. And people have been prophesying over children. They will look at children and they recognize that there's something special. You remember these older people that were in your neighborhood, in your community. When you looked at them, they just knew that there was something special and unique about you. Neville says Nebo is defined as a prophecy. And he says a prophecy is something subjective. If I say so-and-so will be, it is an image in the mind. It is not yet a fact. We must wait and either prove or disprove this prophecy. In our language, he continues, Nebo is your wish, your desire. It is called a mountain because it is something that appears difficult to ascend and is therefore seemingly impossible of realization. A mountain is something bigger than you are. It towers over you. Nebo personifies that which you want to be in contrast to that which you are. And when again, as you can consider this, there could be all kinds of things that come. Nebo is this mountain, and is something that is bigger than you are, and you consider it to be a giant or an impossible dream or something that is difficult and challenging. And it seems that within you, you just don't have the resources, either within you or anywhere, the resources to bring it about. And so it is considered to be an impossibility. So you're following along now. You've got Moses drawing out. You've got Moab, which is consciousness, the mother, father, the cause that brings it forth. It is your desire that is coming forth. Is the word Nebo now. In our language, Neville says, Nebo is your wish, your desire. It is called a mountain because it is something that appears difficult. Remember that statement that Jesus says, if you will say to this mountain, remove with definitiveness, remove you hence, and be cast into the sea. It's the same thing that is being talked about here. You know, when it's cast in the sea, you remember those texts that it says it will neither rise nor be remembered nor come into mind. Same idea. Next, Neville says the word pisgah, P-I-S-G-A-H, by definition is to contemplate. And Jericho is a fragrant odor. And Gilead means the heels of witness. The last word is Dan the prophet. Now Neville says, put them all together in a practical sense and see what the ancients tried to tell us. I stand here, he says, having discovered that my consciousness is God, and that I can, by simply feeling that I am what I want to be, transform myself into the likeness of that which I am assuming I am. I know now that I am all that it takes to scale this mountain. I know now that I am. It is the same state, again, that when we look at Jesus the Christ in the book of Mark, the 11th chapter, and he is saying in that particular text that when you pray, believe that you already have that which you desire. This is the same thing that Neville is bringing about or talking about when we look at this particular item. You assume, or you have faith, or you believe and you're convicted that you are already that which you desire to be. That's the level that we're talking about. You're arriving at that place, and what Neville is simply doing is showing us, revealing to us tools that have been used by every great individual that you may think of at some point. They assume that they could play in the big game. They assumed that they could catch the pass. They assumed that they were able to actually paint this magnificent portrait. They assumed that they were already the great dancer, the great actor. They assumed that they were already the president of the United States of America. They assumed it in their mind. Neville says, I must contemplate my objective in such a manner that I get the reaction that satisfies. If I do not get the reaction that pleases, then Jericho is not seen, for Jericho is a fragrant odor. When I feel that I am what I want to be, I cannot suppress the joy that comes with that feeling. You begin to feel it. You begin to celebrate it. And again, that text that says, before you call, there's already the answer. You say thank you because you already see it. You already know it. You begin to call things that are not, and the first thing that you call is yourself by the name. The name. And it's again getting into the place. And if you've tried it before, try it again. And indeed, try it. Do it until it succeeds. Don't give up on yourself. There's a song that has that word in there. Don't give up on yourself. I must contemplate my objective until I get the feeling of satisfaction personified as Jericho. Then I do nothing to make it visible in my world. For the hills of Gilead, meaning men, women, children, the whole vast world round about me comes bearing witness. They come to testify that I am what I assume myself to be and am sustaining within myself. When my world conforms to my assumption, the prophecy is fulfilled. This is you pronouncing a prophecy on your own life. Remember, the prophecy, there are so many that are in the biblical text, and as I said, that is the one that I am most familiar with, and there are others that I'm reading. The Bhagavad Gita that I'm holding in my hand has been translated by Swami Shajam, I believe is pronunciation. The SHYAM is the way that I have this as I hold it in my hand. I've got the Tao Te Ching, and these were in a great way gifts that were given to me. And the Tao Te Ching is I've got a new translation and commentary by Ralph Allen Dale, and I'm reading that as well, coming to understand what is written there, and not just simply understand it at the level of just that I read it, then I believe it, but at the level of experience. And so this is there again. It's just found in the text. You remember the prophecy that was done in the Bible, done as Joseph dreamed that first dream, or one of those first dreams that he had, where he saw that he was in the field gathering grain, and then his sheaf rose up above all the sheaves of his brothers, and they bowed down to him, and that was a prophetic word that was done in regard to him. It was him having his own dream and then coming forth, and he shared it. And so many times, and this is so vital that you understand this, when you share a dream, and you got to be careful in regard to this, because the same thing that happened to him will happen to others around you, and you may have already experienced that. That may be one reason that you actually arrive at the point where you actually, in a certain kind of way, just kill your own dream, because you arrive at the point where you look at it and you see that individuals are actually almost envious and jealous and mean toward your dream. But surely enough, the dream came to pass. The vision came to pass. And so they will come and they will witness in the same way that Joseph's brother's father came to witness, to tell him that what he had seen was the reality. The dream was the reality. This is what Neville is bringing forth. Let me go ahead with Neville. He says, if I now know what I want to be, that's where we get the spiritual strategic life planner. If you now know what you want to be and assume that you are it and walk as though you were, you become it. And by becoming it, you so completely die to your former concept of self that you cannot point to any place in the world and say, there is where I buried my former self. I so completely died that I defy posterity to ever find where I buried my old self. You remember the Apostle Paul said, I die daily. Remember, he said, I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live now, I live by the faith as the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And so I'm inviting you to an experience, not just hear a word, but to experience and to practice the technique until you have the experience. To practice the technique until you actually have the experience. I mean, it's got to be worth that to you. The dream that you have, the vision that you have. I say that the destination must be worth the drive. It's got to be worth that to you. And you got to feel good just in the aspect of formulating. It's got to vibrate inside of you. It's something that you're passionate about. And Neville, there's a quote that I received today, and it says, quoting an item out of Neville, it says, in a meditative mood bordering on sleep, a cloud or fog ascends. It is in this drowsy state that you should assume that you are that which you desire to be, and that you have that which you seek. For the cloud will assume the form of your assumption and fashion a world in harmony with itself. The cloud is simply the garment of your consciousness, and where your consciousness is placed, there you will be in flesh also. Same thing, stated differently. There must be someone, he says, in this room who will so completely transform him or herself in this world that their close associates, their immediate circle of friends, will not recognize them. He tells his own story about being a dancer on Broadway shows in vaudeville and nightclubs and in Europe. He says, there was a time in my life when I thought I could not live without certain friends in my world. I would spread a table every night after the theater, and we would all dine well. I thought I could never live without them. Now I confess I could not live with them. We have nothing in common today. When we meet, we do not purposely walk on the opposite sides of the street, but it is almost a cold meeting because we have nothing to discuss. He says, I so died to that life that as I meet these people, they cannot even talk of the old times. But there are people living today who are living in that state, getting poorer and poorer. They always like to talk about the old times. They never buried that person at all. He is as much alive within their world. Moses was 120 years, a full, wonderful age, as 120 indicates. 1 plus 2 plus 0 equals 3. The numerical symbol of expression. I'm fully conscious of my expression. My eyes are undimmed, and the natural function of my body are not abated. I am fully conscious of being what I do not want to be. But knowing this law by which a man transforms himself, I assume that I am what I want to be, and I walk in that assumption that it is done. In becoming it, the old man dies, and all that was related to that former concept of self dies with it. You cannot take any part of the old man into the new man. You cannot put new wine in old bottles or new patches on old garments. You must be a new being completely. As you assume that you are what you want to be, you do not need the assistance of another to make it so. Neither do you need the assistance of anyone to bury the old person for you. Let the dead bury the dead. Do not even look back, for no person having put their hand to the plow and then looking back is fit for the kingdom of heaven. Do not ask yourself how this thing is going to be. It does not matter if your reason denies it. It does not matter if all the world round about you denies it. You do not have to bury the old. Let the dead bury the dead. You will so bury the past by remaining faithful to your new concept of self that you will defy the whole vast future to find where you buried it. To this day, no person in all of Israel has discovered the sepulchre of Moses. You know, even today, people can, there's a way that an individual evolves to the point where they really are someone totally different from anything that they have ever been in life. And this is what you are invited to do. This is what you are invited. If you have some desire within you, a desire within you, something that you are passionate about, something that you desperately want, it is something that is just a passion. that you desperately want, then that is pulling you. That is drawing you. You're vibrating at that frequency. And that's what we're talking about. And when it occurs, there'll come a day that you'll seek to find and you can't even find. You have nothing that resonates or vibrates within you about the old person that you were. You may look at it, but remember it, but that's not you today. That's what we're talking about. Continuing with Neville says, these are the 4 stories I promise you tonight. You must apply them every day of your life. Even though the chair on which you are now seated seems hard and does not lend itself to meditation, you can, by imagination, make it the most comfortable chair in the world. Let me now define the technique I want you to employ, he says. The word technique, the how of it. I trust each of you came here tonight with a clear picture of your desire. Do not say it is impossible. The question is, do you want it? You do not have to use your moral code to realize it. It is altogether outside the reach of your code. Consciousness is the one and only reality. Therefore, we must form the object of our desire out of our own consciousness. He continues, people have a habit of slighting the importance of simple things, and the suggestion to create a state akin to sleep in order to aid you in assuming that which reason and your senses deny is one of the simple things you might slight. So he's saying that people look over it, this direction, this instruction, to create a state that is akin to sleep, like being asleep, to aid you. However, he says, this simple formula for changing the future, which was discovered by the ancient teachers and given to us in the Bible, can be proved by all. The first step in changing the future is desire. The 4D life is desire. And the truth of the matter is that when I got the 4D life, I didn't at that time have Neville. But because I resonated at the level of Neville, I found Neville, and Neville found me. The first step in changing the future is desire. That is, define your objective. See the D's? Know definitely what you want. Know definitely what you want. Neville goes further. He says, second, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. This is taking us a step beyond. That's why you're here. Create an event that you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. An event which implies fulfillment of your desire, something which will have the action of self-predominant. So it's self. You're going to do something. The third step is to immobilize your physical body and induce a state akin to sleep. So it's not that you are asleep. You are in a meditative state, I would call it. You're near sleep, but not there. Just before. He says, then mentally feel yourself right into the proposed action, that action that you had. And imagine all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. You must participate in the imaginary action, not merely stand back and look on, but feel that you are actually performing the action so that the imaginary sensation is real to you. Now this is vital. If it takes you another time of listening to this, you want to do that. It is important always to remember that the proposed action must be one which follows the fulfillment of your desire, one which implies fulfillment. For example, he says, suppose you desired promotion in office. Then being congratulated would be an event you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. So your desire is for promotion. You want a better job or greater pay or something, greater recognition, whatever it may be. You want something that you have a desire for. And so you look at this, and then you imagine that you see it. You're conscious of someone coming up and shaking your hand, and you're being congratulated for having received this promotion. You just see it. You say, I imagine that when I do this, say my husband, my wife, my child, my friend, my boss, somebody is going to come and say, that was great. You're just doing this, and you see yourself says, yes, wonderful, I feel so good about it, whatever it may be, whatever your action. But it is an action that implies a fulfillment of your desire. Having selected this action, Neville says, as the one you will experience in imagination to imply promotion in office, immobilize, sit still, be still, and know that I am God. Sit still, immobilize your physical body, and induce a state bordering on sleep, a drowsy state, but one in which you are still able to control the direction of your thoughts, a state in which you are attentive without effort. Then visualize a friend standing before you. Put your imaginary hand into his. Feel it to be solid and real, and carry on an imaginary conversation in harmony with the feeling of having been promoted. Now, this is powerful. This is absolutely powerful. I'm doing this, as he said, daily. Doing this. That's how it is that we're having this conversation. I'm doing this daily. I see you. Daily. I see you. Neville says you do not visualize yourself at a distance in point of space and at a distance in point of time being congratulated on your good fortune. Instead, you make your elsewhere here and your future now. Is happening now. Is happening now. The difference between feeling yourself in action, here and now, and visualizing yourself in action as though you were on a motion picture screen is the difference between success and failure. If you go to our website, evolve2012.com, and watch the video that is there, Revolve to Evolve, it speaks of this aspect of evolving to what you desire to be. And what we're talking about here is that you do this using this technique. You do it using this technique. And when you're passionate about it, do it until you have perfected the technique. We are giving you all kinds of tools again because we love you, and we know you love you, and therefore this is, your passion, your desire. And one tool and technique that we're going to be talking about as we go forth. We talk about what we call imagination, visualization. We talk also about visioning. And we've got an individual who is coming to be with us on September the 14th and 15th, 2012 at our Evolve 2012 conference that is taking place that you can see on the website. And I invite you to go to the website and already register for that because it's going to fill up. I already know it. I've already seen it. I know that it already is. And it will be there. But it's a tool again. How many times have you come to this moment in time and you've had a dream and a vision long before just the year 2012? You've had it, but it's not come to pass. This is your year of fulfilling that. You are electing yourself president of your own life, casting your vote by doing this technique, feeling yourself already president of your own life. And he says the difference, because this is a step beyond just visualizing yourself in action, a step beyond. You are now making your elsewhere here and your future now. Use every tool technique that you're given. Make it happen for yourself. The difference, Neville says, will be appreciated if you will now visualize yourself climbing a ladder. Do this now. Then, with your eyelids closed, imagine that a ladder is right in front of you and feel yourself actually climbing it. So on one way you see yourself doing it, at the next level you're doing it. Visioning is the level beyond visualizing. Visualizing is a step, you do that, but this is a level beyond visualizing. You are feeling because you are doing it. Neville says, experience has taught me to restrict the imaginative action, which implies fulfillment of the desire, to condense the idea into a single act, and to reenact it over and over and over again until it has a feeling of reality. Otherwise, your attention will wander off along an associational track, and hosts of associate images will be presented to your imagination or to your attention, and in a few seconds they will lead you hundreds of miles away from your objective in point of space and years away in point of time. If you climb a ladder, a particular flight of stairs, because that is the likely event to follow the fulfillment of your desire, then you must restrict the action to climbing that particular flight of stairs. Should your attention wander off, bring it back to its task of climbing that particular flight of stairs and keep on doing it until the imaginary action has all the solidity and distinctiveness of reality. The idea must be maintained in the mind without any sensible effort on your part. You must, with a minimum of effort, permeate the mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Drowsiness, he says, facilitates change because it favors attention without effort. But it must not be pushed to the state of sleep in which you no longer are able to control the movement of your attention, but a moderate degree of drowsiness in which you are still able to direct your thoughts. That's what you're looking for. A most effective way to embody a desire is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and then, in a relaxed and drowsy state, repeat over and over again, like a lullaby, any short phrase which implies fulfillment of your desire, such as, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, as though you addressed a higher power for having given you that which you desire. Know that, you can do this long before September the 14th, 15th, 2012 at our Evolve, and then show up. And we'll just have a party. We'll just celebrate your realization that it already is. 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 With your eyes closed and your physical body immobilized, you could try this right now. Close your eyes. Be still. Induce a state of mind akin to sleep. And enter into the action as though you were an actor playing a part. You're winning your own Oscar. You're doing your own Oscar performance. Experience in imagination right now what you would experience in the flesh where you're now in possession of your objective. Right now, make your elsewhere here. Right now, make your then now. And the greater you, using a larger focus, will use all means and call them good, which tend toward the production of that which you have assumed. Use every tool and technique. Step into that place. Eyes closed, body still. Use every tool and technique. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Use every tool, every technique. Make your elsewhere here. Your then now. And so, I'm going to close out consciousness is the only reality. And I invite you to practice this practice. Make your elsewhere here, right where you are. Make your then now. And so it is. Amen. Namaste. Have a wonderful day. Blessings. Bye-bye.